My name is Fred Cook, and I drive school bus.
My name is Leanne Murchie, and I'm a school bus driver for TCAPS. It's been a very wonderful experience.
When I first hired in, one of the previous bus drivers told me that this particular job, driving school bus, is the best job on earth. So I immediately took to it, and I have to agree that this is one of the best jobs that anyone can do.
What prompted me in the very beginning, I have a college degree, and she said, "You're in the safest vehicle in the world on the road." So I thought, well, I'm gonna try. Because I would be on the same time schedule as my own children. And when they were off, I was off. When holidays, I was there. So it was the best of both worlds. TCAPS offers jobs elsewhere within the system.
Between routes, I used to, for 12, 13 years, I did lunch duty over at East Middle School, and now I paint.
They're real good about finding people the hours that they need during the course of the day to make the job great. We have Mesa Insurance. The whole district has it. It's awesome. It's the best health insurance. We offer a 401k. There's a sign-on bonus. It's a win-win situation.
The most important thing, I think, coming to work at TCAPS is you understand that you are a part of a team. It's a part of a collective. It's not just bus drivers and then versus teachers. It's not that. We all are in this thing called education together.
If a person generally likes kids, this is a perfect job.
So I'm talking to kids all day, and that experience is really heartwarming, and I continue to understand what it means to be a part of the community.
You are an educator. You have a chance to touch children's lives every day. And don't think that you don't. You are such an important part of the wheel of education.
Yeah.
you.
Ladies.
All right, we'd like to welcome the audience online and thank you for viewing. Viewers may watch Board of Education meetings and board committee meetings live online at tcaps.net/board. Recorded meetings may be viewed on demand at the same address. It doesn't look like there's any public comment, so we'll move on to procedural items. Looking at draft minutes from the previous meeting, is there any changes?
Looks good. Nope.
All right.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Usually, don't we usually take care of that at the organizational meeting? Or is it usually a review and then do it in February? Okay. Okay. Yeah.
All runs into
Yeah,
each other.
well, that was kind of a rushed meeting as well.
Yeah, it was.
John, I just had one question about the meeting with, on Montessori Crossing, et cetera. So is Tart Trails going to also be involved because of the Buffalo Ridge Trail connection? Is she involved?
We can invite them.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about
Okay.
that. I mean, they've been in doing
Yeah.
that, element with it, and we'll
Okay.
we'll
Yeah.
get them and at least throw an invite out there. I don't know what part of a conversation they have in it, but it'd be good at least for informational, probably for them to know and same for us. So
Okay.
Then there was, I think I've taken as far as I can, the study sessions for the year. I would like to add a discussion item for that, just to nail down topics, because I've had some different feedback, and I don't think I can resolve it without
okay,
having it in a public meeting.
okay.
So that'd be item F.
That'd be item F.
Okay. We're calling them study sessions, right? Not retreats.
We can, that's
Yeah.
part of the discussion.
I just want to make sure I was getting the nomenclature right.
I have them
Okay.
as study sessions,
Okay.
but
Cool.
they could be.
I'm always disappointed because I think of a retreat as like going to a spa
That's
or
what-
something.
that's
So
what
I
I
think,
thought.
and then
lodge.
it's not going to a
On
spa.
school
I can
dollars,
tell you
it's
that.
not that.
Study session.
Maybe the
it is.
ISD conference room at best.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you, and I've been to
Yeah.
retreats, and I thought that's what I was getting myself into, because it was not public, but no, they made me
Yeah.
work.
No, it is not that. Okay, so we'll add those. We have our second public comment, our board president closing remarks and adjournment.
All right.
Great.
Okay. Any other comments on the agenda?
Nope.
All right, moving on to informational items, HR update, phone to Connie Taylor.
Yeah, just real quickly, staffing updates. I think I'd shared with you at the last meeting, we had our first early notification incentive deadline, which had been in December. So obviously, since then, it's slowed a little bit, but we've had a couple more retirements come in. So right now, we're sitting at 17 in our teacher ranks and 1 administrator retirement. And, those will slow, but we'll start to see those individuals who are still on the fence making their decision over the next couple of months, since we have a couple more early retirement incentives still out there running until early March. So we'll continue to update you on that. In terms of vacancies, not very often I get to come and tell you that we are fully staffed at the for the assistants in both our noon duty and our ELA assistants. We had put a call out in one of our earlier meetings for that. But we still have some positions in our custodial ranks. We have 3 open positions, second and third shift, as well as 5 food service part-time cooks assistants. So people who want some flexibility middle of the day, that would be a great opportunity for them to come on board and join us. And as always, we're looking for bus drivers and bus assistants. That will probably always be an ongoing posting for us, but we have had the fortune of hiring a couple in the last few months going through our training. So moving in the right direction, I guess I would have to say. So that would be all I have for staffing. And then I mentioned on there the tenure that Dr. Van Wagner already acknowledged, that we'll be recognizing 3 individuals who have met the requirements for completion of probationary period and are now acknowledged as having tenure in the state of Michigan. And then the last thing on my update would be our policy update. As you know, we've already shared with you the recommendations for sections 4,000, 1,000, and 2,000. We are now starting on our largest and arguably most complex, and that is our curriculum instruction section. Our first meeting is tomorrow afternoon. We have representatives from the curriculum instruction executive team. They will all be present, as well as representatives from both elementary, middle, and high school principals. They will be reviewing the policies to make sure that any elections align with our current practices. Those will be noted on the drafts that we will then present to the board. We've got, I believe, 3 meeting schedules. It's going to take us a little bit more time to get through those policies than it did the previous sections. But the goal will be to have those in your hands sometime either mid to late February for your review. And then lastly, we will move on to the operations and facilities section, and that will be the last packet that we'll present to you for your review, with the hope of adoption of all of the sections in the summer. So we're moving along in that process.
Thank you for the update. I just have a question. So the packet you gave us back in December, are we waiting for to go through all the policies in December, or in the summer, or are we?
Right, so what we're hoping to do, rather than everyone have to review all the sections and tackle any questions, concerns, modifications, recommended edits of all the sections, we're hoping to be able to do that as we go along. So like, for example, the 4,000 section, if anyone had any questions, we would have an opportunity to then address them as we move along, and then same with the 2,000 sections, and then the instructional section. So by the time we get to the summer, hopefully the dialogue will be limited to any new concerns or questions that arise, but we won't be tackling all of the policies at one time. So just trying to get them to you guys incrementally.
Right, makes sense.
Like maybe we need one of those.
I just want to make sure I do my
sessions.
homework in advance. So that packet you gave us in December, when would that be on the March agenda for us to discuss?
Well, what we've asked is just if you have questions to bring them up and send them to me individually.
Okay.
So if they're easy things that we can simply just address in terms of a question, but if there's suggested edits or concerns, then we could place those on a board agenda as a discussion item.
Okay.
And I think the last time I reviewed them, I just sent some saying like the board will probably have to comment on this. I didn't even say
Yeah.
the outcome per se, because I was just like, I feel like this is going to be a question. So like I
Yeah.
highlighted just a couple.
Is there
Yeah.
a deadline, though, that you have in mind for us?
Well, as we get closer to the actual adoption, I'll say, please let me know by such and such a date, because some of it might involve some additional research on my part. So if we do all of that at a board meeting or, a couple of board meetings, I may not have the answers to, and depending on the magnitude or the number of questions or concerns or suggested edits that come in. Some of them I might be able to answer right off the top of my head, but I won't claim to be that good. I'm always going to want to go back and do some research and do my due diligence for all of you. So we'll set a deadline maybe as we get closer to completing all of the sections, that any questions, please send them to me by such and such a date so that I'm prepared for discussion items at the board meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that completes my report out.
All right. Any other questions? Communications update, deferred to Ginger Smith.
Okay, I think I had brought to your attention a couple months ago that we are working on our TCAPS branding guide. And the guideline communication toolkit did begin that rollout in January when we touched on internal email protocols to standardize the messaging for the read, act, and respond. You may have recognized an email coming through on that detail. That was stage 1. The guide overall is a 48-page compilation and completely responsive guide, so it can live online on our website. Covers all branding, style, and all of our communication resources. So it will have all approved links to documents and logos, allowing for consistency district-wide with everything from slide decks to memo pages, letterheads, fonts, email signatures. If you can dream it, we've probably made it. Moving forward, the rollout will tackle one section per month to all staff. We will share each section with staff via email, knowing that it will be completely underway by the first day of school in September. And we will share electronic version of the guide and toolkit itself on February 9 with all staff.
All right. Any questions?
That's a big deal, rebranding
It's,
everything.
it's
A lot
a
of
big undertaking.
Yeah.
It is.
Colors and
Yeah,
fonts and,
yeah.
and a lot, so.
All right. Moving on to district calendar. The phone's dropped by Magna.
Okay, and this is something, just an informational item that we've done with each committee of the board, so you're informed. The calendar does not require approval by the board, but I just wanted to get any feedback in case there were any issues. A few highlights for this. We are continuing to honor our post-Labor Day start as required by law. However, you can do a waiver for it, and there are many communities that do across the state of Michigan. We just, the guidance I've had in the past, and I feel within our community is as a tourist destination, oftentimes that week or two before September is pretty vital that, you know, some of our employers have kids, you know, our students to be able to help. There's many times where the week before Labor Day that I've got into restaurants and it's like all TCAPs, like seniors that are working in a restaurant. So we've honored continuing that post-Labor Day start. Now, it is earlier in September this year. You remember a couple years ago, we were late into, and it pushed us really third week into June at that point. So it is earlier with that, but really probably the biggest change is that we are doing something a little different. We are actually going to have and I said this different yesterday. I just want to make sure that I'm looking at it right. Because I don't honor the difference between half days and early release days, because there really are two different things from that standpoint. But we are doing we are recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day, where we are not going to, and I'll say it this way right now, we're not having a full day of school. But we are going to start planning early some activities to recognize and honor the tradition of our Indigenous people, especially with having many students, Indigenous students within our schools. We're going to try and have our Indigenous student program work with the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians to see what different activities we can have throughout our buildings for that day to be able to celebrate and honor those traditions. So we're excited about that. Also, the board, we've had ongoing talks over the last couple of years about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And so we have also gone with the plan, and again, this is negotiated with the Traverse City Education Association, our teachers union, and we've supported the idea of having not a full day on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, but having instruction time and also making sure we have activities that honor Dr. King, legacy, and activities throughout that instructional portion. And also in the afternoon, seeing if we can advertise and work with partners such as United Way, Dennis Museum, others that do activities on that day to have our students recognize those learning opportunities as well as maybe opportunities for service that can be that day in honor of Dr. King's work. So we'll be working on that and a plan of what that looks like. Again, we have a lot of time by declaring it now. But also, again, the way the calendar works, we will now be doing we will have instruction for part of the day for Good Friday, and that is new. But as we look at needing 180 days of school, 1,098 hours, this is something that the committee, the way that Good Friday felt that this would fit well in our calendar, still allow students to be able to get out for maybe an early afternoon mass or whatever religious celebration or activity that they may have on Good Friday. And it has us end with a half day on June 11th at this point. So this is the calendar we have, and it has to actually be voted on by the TCEA. We have not given them that go yet. I wanted to just explore this with the board, making sure to see if there was any red flags, anything that the boards had identified before I had Connie take that to the TCEA to officially say we're ready if they're ready from that standpoint. So, Connie, anything to add there?
No, you're spot on. It was a great collaborative effort with the association. I think we met on 2 different occasions to talk about the days, and we're pretty much in agreement on all things moving forward. And as Dr. Van Wagner shared, obviously you guys know I came from a downstate and a very urban area, and many of the districts had moved towards keeping the kids in schools on many of the days that celebrate diversity so that we can do some educational opportunities, but then still allowing the time in the afternoon for external opportunities with families. So this very much aligns with what I've seen across the state.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the half-day on MLK with an emphasis on celebrating him and then the indigenous peoples. So that's
Agreed.
excellent.
Yeah. Good
I
moves.
worry about that Good Friday, or is anyone else worried about attendance?
I am a little worried about attendance, but
Typically, if it was more aligned with a spring break or butted up against another break period, that's generally when we get concerned, and that's where we were last year. Actually, Good Friday fell during spring break, so we didn't have to address the issue. This year, with Easter falling much later in the calendar, it doesn't abut to any other sort of school break in the calendar. So typically, we see families go for more extended periods of time, but because they're back in school on Monday, we didn't see a concern.
I'll say one that I might get beat up for, but you always have the option of, if you don't use all your snow days, that you do have, a flexibility there.
Yeah.
Right, but also understand that even if we didn't have the full attendance, it's just a prorated amount. It's not like you don't get paid for the day. It's just, it's prorated from the 75%. So if you had 72%, you would just be prorated on the 3%.
3%.
If, we don't think that's gonna happen, but if for some reason it did, there are those 2 options that are in there. And you even have the ability of 3 days, that you can request from the state, but,
and it's
in
and
a
I
mild
guess-
winter, you just happen to have some days
Yeah.
maybe.
Right.
I guess the only other thing is it's really late this year, like
Yeah.
late April, which would mean that's about as late as it goes. I think.
Yeah.
It's kind of out of the.
And a lot of
It is.
people have
It's
already
out of formula.
maybe taken spring break or those kind of things, so
Yeah.
we think we're gonna be okay, but in
Okay.
case it wasn't, just let you know, worst case scenario, that's worst case scenario.
You were thinking of student attendance, right? Or were you thinking of staff or both?
No, I'm mainly student.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I've already raised this to Dr. Van Wagner that, all 3 of these half days being on a Friday or a Monday, it's always tricky, right? Because people are tempted to take a 3-day weekend, especially with that legacy of, having a holiday for MLK Day. Always, people plan 3-day ski weekend or whatever. So I think it's really important that we get the communication out there to the community that these are going to be educational days on
Now, I will
Indigenous
tell you
people.
there are a couple other districts within the ISD that have had this. Frankfurt's one, they've had no issue with attendance, even on that Friday. So, not that it would be the same for sure, but
Right.
But again, like we do have a little bit of safeguards in there if somehow it was, and we'll reevaluate it then next year. We do this each year, but we want to try.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I'll also mention that another benefit in working with the association was that we struggle to get professional development for our teachers within the school calendar. And, doing a lot of it outside of the school day, it makes for long days, months, weeks for some of our staff. So many of the half days we're taking advantage of being full teacher days, and we'll do some professional development, professional learning communities in the afternoon for our instructors.
Right, and we have to use those 4 half days, right, to meet the requirement of 5
Yeah,
PD days.
We've done it other ways in the past. There are ways, but typically that means doing stuff, after school and outside of the school day, which, some of those, particularly when they fall during parent-teacher conference weeks or months in which there's no other break in the calendar, it makes for some very long days and evenings
Sure,
for our staff.
sure.
So it's obviously optimal anytime that we can have staff together during the day and utilize teacher work time.
Yeah. So yesterday at Finance, there were a couple of suggestions about
Yeah.
improving the legend. We don't have to
Yeah, we'll put
repeat
that,
them
so,
here.
yeah, so we've got that, we'll get that
Yeah,
done.
but
Yep.
one thing I just caught now, for the yellow rectangles where we say teacher workdays, parentheses 4, can we put a semicolon, no school for students, so that's just super clear to parents that that's not a school day? Similar to what we do, I think that was what Christine Thomas Hill recommended for the regional staff development day, to make that clear.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Connie, was just while we're here, is to maybe like where the asterisks are, they're like at the bottom, to identify Indigenous Peoples' Day, you know, and
MLK Day.
and Dr. Martin Luther King Day. Just
Well, that
just
can go in the
acknowledge
top
it.
portion up here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my suggestion. They're really tight on space, but yeah.
Oh, you were talking about putting it up there, moving that.
Yeah, in the legend, you know, actually
I also
noting it's
didn't-
like educational.
Just read the asterisks too.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
interesting. If it falls, if the school's cancelled on one of those days.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we faced that one. What if you don't have Cal Snow Day? You're good.
I feel like one of the only, and I can say it with MLK weekend in general, like in the hospitality industry, it's noticeable with downstate shifting because it's not. It used to be quite a busy weekend, and now it's a relatively normal weekend in the hospitality side. So.
Because you think more districts are going
Yeah, it's not,
to this
not like a
model.
longer-
So they have to stay home.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because
you
they
don't
don't
get
have
the
that
extra,
Monday off.
Yeah.
so it's more spread out throughout the whole
Interesting.
time.
Yeah.
And it could have just been because of the weird snow this year, but it was particularly noticeable.
Yeah, we had
but-
the blizzard this year.
Yeah, blizzard and then no snow, blizzard, no snow. The question I get asked most, and I should have asked this before, but the most asked question that I can't answer is, why do we have a half day the first week of school?
Generally, a lot of that is especially your younger kids, especially kindergartners. It's a lot.
That's what I
Yep.
was leaning on, but I was never actually confident that that was
Yep,
the case.
it is. It's, you know, especially since they've gone to full day kindergarten, you know, for some of that and getting scheduling and stuff worked out, all that, it gives an opportunity just to ease into it from that standpoint.
And I will mention, this past year, we had gone a full day that
Yeah.
day, and the association came back and said, you know, we wanted to try the full day, but it's a lot for the kids, you know, to be back, and it's very noticeable that afternoon. And then also you get into where we're still dealing with some warmer temperatures that week, so that compounds it if we have it. So that was actually at the association's request that we go back to the half day, which had been in the calendar previously.
I just wanted to
Right.
confirm, because that
This
is
last-
one that's asked frequently.
This last September was an experiment to not have that Friday.
Correct.
So clearly, the teachers wanted to restore that.
Correct.
And I totally get it. That's exactly what I think of as those kindergartner
It's our soft
teachers.
start.
Yeah. 3.5 days. The
Easing it.
kids aren't unhappy with it either, right?
So,
Yeah.
all right.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay?
Good work. I know that had to have been a lot of negotiating and getting all parties on board and
Like I said,
happy with the
we
outcome.
are so blessed here, working with the associations that we have on how collaborative they are, you know, so while it takes time to sit down and walk through it, we all tend to have the same goals and missions in mind, so it's a breath of fresh air. It's really great.
So I'm going to go ahead then and have Connie begin working with the TCA for moving forward. And then, you know, hopefully have all this sort of when people go on spring break and stuff. A lot of times they like to know that date for the next year. Maybe it's they're booking the same place they've been or a campground or whatever that is. So we are a little bit earlier this year, fortunately, than we were last year with the calendar. So we'll move forward.
All right. Any other questions on calendar or actually, I guess, any other items in general? All right, with that, our next Board Executive Committee meeting is Thursday, February 29th, there you go, at 9 a.m. In this room and online.
Nope.
Sorry.
4 p.m.
Oh, thank you. I was just so focused on the February 29th.
There you
portion, I
go.
was,
Both my committee meetings have changed to different
know.
days,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm looking
All
forward
of
to
them,
that.
all three. have.
Just to be clear,
Yeah.
Scott, what date did you get?
Thursday, February 29th.
Okay, yeah. At 4 p.m.
At 4 p.m. in this room and online.
Got
So
it.
with that, we are adjourned.